enjoy that little health snippet? Helpful, was good. Something different, right? I mean, we've never sort of done anything like that before. So just something just that little bit different, and hopefully there's some things you can take home both personally and to your workplaces so that you can actually start working on helping those guys last a bit longer. Yeah. Not that we want them to work a bit longer, but we want them to live full, happy lives, right? And health is a part of that. So moving on to the more serious stuff then. What do you think 75% of the population fear?
The unknown.
What?
Public speaking.
Public speaking?
Being embarrassed.
Embarrassed?
Excluded.
Excluded? Yeah. Okay. Nobody said death. Interestingly, I thought one of the biggest fears in life was death, but apparently, is this going to work? Oh, wait, I have to feel that here.
You only fear that at the end of your life. When you're young, you don't think it's ever going to happen.
Is that right? And when you say young, how old is that?
So your age and less.
I say. Very different. Very good. So 75% of the population have glossophobia. So hands up who in this room and online would say that they have glossophobia, fear of public speaking. And so, Joe, you know, the first year we did this, we said, Joe, can you speak? You were like, what? No. But you did it anyway, didn't you? You pushed through.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what if I said to you all, oh, wait, I've just taken the oil. I've got to run. Jane, can you take over? I know that's the wrong person to pick. Joe, can you take over? You know, how would you feel about that? So one of the reasons that I started preparing this talk, because, you know, every year I do a new thing, right? I try to do something new for you all, is that in Queensland, you know, we've been expanding into Queensland and nobody there will speak. I can't get a surveyor to present a case study for anything. So we just did one in Mackay and they had to go and get all the council staff to come and present on things that were happening in Mackay because no surveyors. Now, they all told me it was because they were too busy. So I did this presentation and then they were all coming up to me afterwards going, it's okay, I'll do the next one. So they clearly felt very guilty that they hadn't stepped up. So is it that we're too busy? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities to speak in the surveying world, isn't there, at our conferences? So, Rick, have you spoken at many of the conferences?
2 ISNSW.
2 ISNSW ones. And what about at transport? Do you have opportunities there to get up and speak?
Yeah, Glads.
Glads, yep.
Surveyors.
But only to surveyors?
No, clients and councils and.
So over the weekend, the Chief of Staff for the Transport Minister liked something I posted on LinkedIn. What if I said to you, they've asked me to come and present to the Minister? Rick, could you come with me? How would you feel about that?
Lunch included.
Okay, good. So, you know, John, what about you? Have you done you did a presentation at the Business Academy most recently?
That was forced, but no, I haven't signed up for anything. No.
Yep, okay. Now then, what about in the staff working place? Joe, you have team meetings. Do you present at those team meetings?
Yeah.
Yes? And how do you feel about that? Is that comfortable because you know them?
Because I know everyone there and they do.
Yes.
They're all comfortable and standing up.
Yes. Helen, you've had to teach a bunch of school kids.
Yeah, if I know the content, I'm very confident. But if you told me to get up and talk about politics, I would not be impressed.
Right, so knowing the content is key.
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, I get up and do these sorts of things all the time, but I get to pick my topic. I usually pick something I'm quite comfortable with. This is about the 5th time I've presented this now, so I have no notes. The first time I presented it was in Dubbo at the thing, and I had my notes because, you know, but normally I can do things without notes if I've presented it and I'm more confident with it. So sometimes that, and so if you're doing a team meeting or a staff thing every week or every other month, there might be a lesser amount of confidence. I don't know. Linda, would you get an opportunity ever to pop up and speak?
At the surveyors meetings, things that relate to, you know, payroll, like about timesheets. That's about it, really.
Okay. Karen?
I do, but I get tongue-tied all the time when I try to get my point across or try to, I sort of and doubt myself when I'm talking.
Yeah. So doubting yourself, that's a big one. I mean, we won't necessarily talk about imposter syndrome, but we can, because one of the things that I say to people, especially if they've been asked to present, you are asked to present, which means that somebody thinks you've got something to say. Even if you don't feel like you've got anything to say, you've been asked, therefore somebody else believes in you. And so just give it a go. And you're up there and the rest of the people are not. So take that on, as your opportunity, perhaps. Naomi, what about you?
A little bit in work, sort of explaining things, how things work, timesheets and that sort of thing. I've done a bit at like church conferences and that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm scared of it as such. I severely dislike it. I feel very self-conscious.
Yes. So that self-conscious piece, we're going to talk some more about that as well. Jane, you've presented at a number of conferences, haven't you? Oh. Didn't you do some stuff in the bushfires?
Only once. No. It's what you say. It's like it's beyond knowing your topic. It's feeling confident about your knowledge in the topic.
Yes.
That you can actually not just know it because you've learnt it, but that you can do it on the fly. That next level of knowledge, that'll make you comfortable. That's much.
Rachel?
Yeah, I feel very self-conscious too.
Do you have to present ever at team meetings and things?
Yeah, all the time. I'll do it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad when it's over.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I think, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I'm like someone that I get tongue-tied, but I get brain.
So one of the other things is that when you get up here and you forget to say something, nobody knows that that's what you were planning to say, so they don't know that you've forgotten it. Only you know that you've forgotten it. If you say the wrong thing, most people will be pleased that it's you and not them, and they'll be very forgiving because at least you got up and had a go. So I have never had anybody laugh at me when I've gotten up to speak. I've never had anybody suggest that I should get off the stage, any of those. When I've had people criticise what I've said, that's because they've disagreed with the content or something. I mean, the first year I was here, I said to the board, what do you want me to present on? And they said, on marketing. I thought, okay, sure, I know about marketing. I'll go and present on marketing. Well, you can imagine the audience participation as I got up to go and talk to surveyors about marketing, right? It was pretty poor. And so so I thought I must have bombed. Well, actually, I had really good feedback afterwards. People said, oh, that was great, da-da-da. But from the room, because surveyors, they're not particularly good at so that was, something. Sally, what about you? What's your experience with public speaking?
Yeah, I've presented quite a bit at meetings and things, but still get nervous. But it's just building that confidence every time, I guess. And sometimes you do feel a little bit put on the spot, depending on the questions. But yeah, it's just trying to find your way through that, I guess.
Yeah, good. And Rani, are you back? Do you have any? Yep, go ahead.
Look, I'm fine if I'm speaking to the directors, but when it's to the whole business, I get very nervous.
Good point.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can talk to our bosses, whatever, we work a bit more closely with them in a board meeting or a team meeting, whatever, we can talk to them. I mean, it'd be interesting to know these two, how does that go? Helen, how do you tell him he's wrong? Whatever. John, how nicely do you give instructions?
I do all the listening and then a lot of groveling.
Yes.
Very groveling.
Yes. And now I don't know if anybody else is online that wants to speak up. Marcus and the gang, Lisa, any of you others want to talk about your experience with public speaking? Feel free to jump in now. One of the joys of online. So interestingly enough, in the list of the 10 most feared things, glossophobia does not even make the list. So whilst we say so many people are scared of it, we're scared of worse things. Holes, not surveyors. I don't think they're scared of holes. I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, I don't walk at night because I'm scared of tripping on the footpath or falling in a hole or something and breaking a leg or breaking an ankle or something. So
Where'd that sinkhole come from? Oh, Jesus, it went.
that's right. I don't know. Anybody got astrophobia, fear of thunder and lightning? Bit of an education here for you in some of these phobias. I certainly have arachnophobia. Spiders, oh my goodness. Have you ever been driving and a spider crawls across the windscreen? Oh, when I lived in Wollongong and I would drive up to Sydney for various things, there was once I remember I was driving and I remember because I was just coming past the airport, turning right onto street where the St George TAFE is. Anyway, just there, there's a service station just there. President Avenue, that's right. And so I'm turning there and this spider crawled. I pulled into the service station, jumped out of the car and called my husband and told him to come up and get me. Because I was not getting back in that car if there was a spider there. That's my level of fear of spiders is much higher than my level of public speaking. No, he talked me through it and he, whatever. And so he talked to me on the phone the whole way home. So that if I saw it again, I was a bit worried about seeing it at 110 while I was going down the highway, because I would have just. Anybody got any of those? Claustrophobia? That's an often.
Yeah, I do.
Phobia? Yeah. So when it comes to these challenges and what we fear, it's really more about understanding the fear that you have and why it might be that you've got that fear. So it's about rationally analysing, where you sit with that. So examining how it makes you feel. So how would it make you feel if I asked you to get up here and present to a group of your peers? So sometimes we're happy to present to our bosses or in a team setting because we're confident about our position in the company. So we've got no fear there. There's no fear there because it's expected that these people must listen to me because of the position that I hold. I'm just going to put a few of you as we go around. So Karen, you were in an organisation that's been bought by a big entity that feels maybe bigger than what you were used to. And so remembering that you've been there more than 20 years, your experience sets you at a pretty high level, I would think.
You still feel like you're down here and all the uni engineers and they're all up here. So what you say doesn't make a difference sometimes. So you sort of revert into your shell a bit, yes, and let it play out and then go, I told you so. No, I don't say that.
Yeah. But you want to say that.
You want to say that because it's hard when you've got no qualifications but they're all sort of professional and sometimes they don't want to listen to what you say as well.
And so, I appreciate that because I work with them all too and I do respect the study and the level of expertise that they have of surveying, only of surveying. And so love you, but truly that's their skill and their expertise. And so when I go to teach at the Business Academy, I was a little bit shocked the first year when I got up to present on finances and I'm presenting balance sheet and profit and loss and whatever, thinking that I was teaching them how to suck eggs. And some of the guys came up to me afterwards and said, thank you. Nobody's ever shown me how to read a profit and loss. So I don't have a degree in accounting. What I have is 20, 30 years of experience in doing accounts. So I'm not at Hadrian's level. I don't have a degree. I'm not an accountant. I'm not at Tiffany's level. I'm not a certified practicing accountant. But I've been doing finances my whole career. So I know when my accountant's telling me the wrong thing or my auditor's telling me the wrong thing or, isn't quite right there. So I think that we have been taught as a society to value the certificate, the degree that's been gained because the universities it's a little bit like the health food companies, that have done such a great job, the food companies that have done such a great job of selling us about food. The university sector have done such a great job at selling if you don't have a degree, then you're nothing. That mentality has come through into our society so strongly that those of us that don't have a degree feel, so I don't have an undergraduate degree. I have a diploma of theology. I don't even have a diploma of business. I do, however, have a Master's of Management. And the way I got into my master's degree was because of my years of experience. So I would encourage any of you that if you feel that you don't have a level of qualification, then you can get it at any time. You can go after that. If that will help you in your confidence, then just do it. Do it part-time, do a shortened version of it, something like that. But if that's one of the things, because what we do when we're examining and understanding our fears, we've got to understand and come up with how can I overcome that? Because what you feel is correct. Nobody can tell you that what you're feeling is silly because it's how you feel. You can't possibly say that you're wrong. It's your feelings. So what you've got to do is identify how can you overcome those feelings. And sometimes for those of us that say don't have the degree and feel like the others that do must be better, that's not necessarily the case. So, I think even Rick said earlier, he knows about surveying, but now he's running the whole show. He needs some administrative training, right? And so you all have a lot more experience administratively than Rick does, though he's a registered surveyor.
Can I give you a really weird example of something to keep in the back of your mind about why they may not know everything? We've had not one but two staff who are in their early 20s didn't know where to put a stamp on an endpoint.
Oh, we had one as well. I had that last week.
But they're getting their degree.
Yeah, that's right.
So contextually, it's like it could be all brains, no conscience. It could be they're being learned, but they have no life experience. So just because they've got their experience in one area doesn't mean that therefore they know everything.
That's right. And nobody's asking us to put pegs in the ground. You two have to put pegs in the ground. The rest of us don't have to put pegs in the ground. So I think sometimes we have to acknowledge the level of experience and the knowledge that we have, and not one is better than another. I would have no fear talking to I saw the Prime Minister just the other week. He was hounded by people and I couldn't get in. But I did walk up to the Premier and just started chatting to him. He's just a man who happened to get elected. There's nothing particularly special about him, right? There's nothing particularly special. I mean, I would go and talk to the Queen if you could get through the barrage of whatever. Oh, she's not here anymore. Sorry, the King. Sorry. I'm old. Clearly I remember the Queen. Anyway, she wouldn't be, no, that's right. That would be a different kind of session here. But do you know what I mean? So we often have this view because of the nature of our society, this hierarchical approach, but actually we can talk to anybody. I remember when I first started, we had our ACS Christmas lunch that we have every year, and I sat next to one of our members, and it was the first time he'd been invited to the Christmas lunch. And he's one of our large member firms, and he just expanded and basically moved into Sydney, and now he's, anyway. And he sat next to me, he said, I'm sitting next to the CEO. That's so special. I mean, it was my first day. I knew nothing about surveying, whatever. But he thought I was more important than him because I had this title that really, I didn't know anything about surveying. Quite frankly, he's much more important than I am, and he's now on the national board, but that's because he said I was special. So sometimes it's thinking about what is the worst thing that could happen? What is the worst thing that could happen if you are asked to present to the team, present to the board, present on behalf of the company, present at a surveying conference? There could be multiple things that you could be asked to present for. What is the worst thing that could happen?
You can make a fool of yourself.
You can make a fool of yourself. Everyone thinks it's silly. Now, how many things have you been to where you've heard somebody speak that you've laughed at them behind your back and you thought, oh, what a fool, what an idiot, apart from politicians, because when they speak, that's usually what we think. But otherwise, wouldn't anybody actually... So isn't that more about what we think about ourselves than what somebody in the audience thinks about us or is going to say about us? Because we're professional people. Somebody might actually want to give you some tips and some pointers, and one of the things to overcome that particular problem might be to set somebody up in the audience to say, hey, would you take some notes for me and give me some feedback after the session about how I might improve next time? That's a really good thing to do, because what happens after you speak? Megan asked me before, how was that? And Melissa asked me, how was that? Was that all right? I said, yeah, it was great. Now, I can give them more detailed feedback later, but do you think I'm going to say, yeah, that was terrible, that wasn't, no. Nobody's ever going to say that. It was really wonderful. Don't worry. But do you know what I mean? Like, rarely is anybody going to say that was awful. You know, that was, I mean, somebody might say that wasn't an engaging presentation, which is the way you've presented it. But usually the content is, you know, acceptable. How about rationalise what the odds are of that actually happening? So the odds of somebody saying, well, that was pretty foolish. Now, look, I work with surveyors. I could name somebody who is likely to come up to me. I can name them here. Wait, this is being recorded. Peter Friedman is very likely, not Freeman, you know, the older Peter Friedman. He is very likely to come up to me and tell me when I have said something wrong, or I have done something wrong, or I've spoken out of order. And you know, I don't mind that. And I expect that from him because he wants me to do better. And I know that. He's very upfront, he's very blunt, and so on. So if I get up and say something wrong, he will probably tell me. And that is okay because I probably need to know that. So you probably all have somebody in your organisation who is the blunt person, who is going to tell you, that's you, yeah, that's right. Jane's organisation, that's Jane. She's going to tell them when they've done it wrong or something's not right. And you need somebody like that. Because don't you want to know how to improve and how to get better? So she's not going to call you foolish. Nobody would call you foolish. There are different ways to calm your nerves. So, you know that nervous feeling you get before you either have to get up to speak, you've got to go and talk to the boss. How about even if you want to go and ask the boss for a pay rise? I'm asking the board for a pay rise this week. First pay rise in 3 years. Take some deep breaths. Right? So really deep breathing can help. Pausing, having a drink. You know, there can be physical bits that can help you overcome some of those natural nerves that you might feel. You've just got to find the one that works for you. For me, it's drink. I drink a lot of water anyway, but I'm conscious of my water bottle's all the way back there. But I'm very I will see if you're ever in a meeting with me and you see me say something and laugh and then take a drink of water, it probably means that I thought I said the wrong thing. I just have this, you know how people have these tells, you know, like in poker? Like what's your tell in poker? Well, my tell in poker would be I'd have a drink of water. It's my action. It's just my thing. I don't know how I've trained myself to do that. I've just found my calming motion, and that is my calming motion. So you've got to find one of those. And you can acclimate to when you're presenting, practice. I actually saw Megan earlier. Thank you. I saw Megan practicing earlier in the boardroom. I was going to interrupt her. Oh, no, she's practicing. Now, I am not a practicer because the more I practice, the more nervous I get. Because if I've practiced that I'm going to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I go A, B, C, D, what's that fifth one? Can't remember. Then I lose the rest of what I was going to say. Now, that is me personally. Everybody in communication will tell you that you should practice. I've never, ever not read that you should not practice. But I'm going to say, if it makes you more nervous to practice a lot, then don't do it. Kathy here, who presents on the task force, she practices before every presentation. She gets very nervous, and I'm amazed at how nervous Kathy gets. When Kathy is a professional performer, like she actually has been in dance and shows and has been a director for an art studio thing, and she still gets so nervous at presenting. And I'm like, but Kathy, you're a superstar. I mean, she can sing like you wouldn't believe, but she still gets nervous when she gets up to present. Now, I have had years and years and years of practice. So I used to be actually a very retired, shy, introverted girl. Believe it or not, it's true. I would never, ever get up and speak. The fact that I do now is totally amazing to me. So as I look back, because that's the other thing, right? Think about where you are now to where you were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And look at how far you've come as a person. And all the steps along that way have been practice to get you to where you are now. For me, the biggest steps that I've taken have been when I went into politics and I was a counsellor and I had to speak every Monday night on whatever matter was before us. I had to pick at least one because it was a requirement, sort of, in, one of those peer pressure things where you had to speak. So I had to get up and speak on my feet all the time, which meant I had to know my stuff. I had to read the thing. I had to talk to the staff. I had to know what I was talking about. And it was always recorded. And if anybody was ever going to laugh at me and say I was foolish, it was absolutely in that room, because politically that's what you do, right? You beat up your other opponents. So that was my practice. And so now I will still get a sense of nerves before I get up and speak. I'm going to speak at FIG conference in Ghana on the value of surveying that I haven't even prepared yet, but that's right, I've still got 3 weeks. I will be very nervous before I get up to present that. Not because I'm nervous about speaking, but because I'm getting up to represent all of you. And if I say something wrong or mess up or something, I feel it will reflect on all of you and it will reflect on the country. So I will probably practice, and I don't normally practice. So sometimes it depends on how high the stakes are for the presentation. So when you're presenting to your team, the stakes might not be that high. You might not need to practice as much. But practice might just be a meeting with the directors to say, look, at the team meeting this week, I want to cover this, this and this, and I'm really going to have a go at them about the timesheets because really they're not doing it, and here's the 5 reasons I'm going to give them about why they should be. Does that sound okay to you? That's practice, right? You don't actually have to practice, do you know what I mean? Like, that is practice. So no matter who you're presenting to, you've just got to figure out what your steps are to get you closer to that level of confidence that you feel it'll be a win. Yeah? Because there are a number of mindsets that invoke fear. And we just have this thought that public speaking is inherently stressful. Now, I think the reason we think that is because we're often presenting to our peers, and it comes from school. Remember when you were in school, and if you didn't do something the right way, whatever, all the kids laughed at you and they all went off and formed this little clique and you weren't included. Yes? And so we've sort of got this mentality that we need everybody to like us. And if they don't like us, then that will reflect poorly on me as a person and I'll be on my own again. But again, I would say, firstly, the company that you work for has employed you and they're paying you pretty well, probably. They've asked you to present at the team meeting on whatever the issue is, or at, whatever senior level or wherever it is. So they think you've got something to say. So your peer success is already guaranteed. So you don't need to have that fear. I would just say to the surveyors in the room as well, if you're getting up to present a case study of something that's been approved by LRS, you got the plan through. The journey of how you got there is actually what everybody wants to know. Even if it went back and forward and whatever, that journey is what people need to know. And you presenting on that, the stamp of approval has already been given, right? The plan's through. So just a little thing there. You need to be perfect to succeed. We sort of have this thing that's built into us in our world moving forward that we think, well, I'm not as good as that person, or I've got to be perfect, and it's not perfect yet. It's like, baking a cake or something, if the cake comes out wrong, you don't serve it to the kids. I mean, yes, you do. You just sort of put some stuff on it, don't you, and serve it? I don't know. Perfectionism is a real thing. My daughter is a perfectionist, and it was always a challenge for her getting through school. And so right now she's studying interior design, and I finally got her to accept she only has to pass. So I would even say for registered surveyors, right, all they have to do is pass those board exams. And even if they fail 1 out of 5 and they've got to go back and do it again, and then they pass the next time, they passed. They get that registration certificate, and nobody remembers how many times you sat the planning exam or the engineering exam. Nobody remembers. You probably don't remember. Yes, you probably do. The ones who went through all 5 at once remember it, and they like to tell you, but anyway. So we think about perfectionism. Sometimes we try to cover too much material. So you've all sort of been in those sessions where you see somebody get up and they've just got slide after slide after slide of blurb. So they're trying to cover too much material. Having the wrong objectives. If you're there to explain to them that they need to do their timesheet so that your job is easier, that's not going to work. You've got to help them understand why it's important for them to win that particular one. Trying to please everyone, again, can always be a challenge. Trying to copy others. So Kathy and I talk about this regularly. So Kathy has presented this as well. She presented this for me in Ballina. She didn't present it like I would present it. She presented her own stories, her own examples. The content is similar. Even think about Melissa and Megan. They present differently. They didn't try to be like the other one because you don't want to copy some. It's like getting up and saying, well, I've got to present this as good as the Surveyor General or as good as David Job. You can't, because you're not them. You can only present it as well as you can present it. You can't be somebody else. I imagine this is pretty prevalent in teaching as well, where teachers try to be like other teachers because they hear good things about that teacher and they're like, I want to be like that teacher. You know, we all had our favourite teachers. And imagine how competitive it is in the teaching world. Oh, well, how come I'm not the favourite teacher and that one's the favourite teacher? And I mean, it must be horribly political. Anyway, stick with surveying. It's much more. Being arrogant and proud, like you're being a know-it-all. Right, well, I'm right because and I told you I was right, and I was right last time, and I'm right again this time. That's not going to work. You've got to come at it from knowing your audience and from your audience's perspective. Expecting the worst. So sometimes we can talk ourselves into just how bad that thing can be. Like we just go round and round and round until we've convinced ourselves that it's going to be awful. That's all self-talk. So we're saying the wrong things to ourselves. Being over-prepared. So you've practiced and practiced and practiced so much that somebody asks you a question, it completely throws you off. Or somebody wants to contribute something and you're like, I can't, I've just got to do that. And it can become a bit mechanical as well, over-preparation. And thinking the audience will be as critical of you as you are of yourself. Nobody, this will shock you, nobody thinks about you more than you think about you. So nobody is as critical of you as you are of yourself. Some of us might say our partners are a little bit more critical of us than we are of ourselves, but even that's not true because they love you and they think you're great no matter what you do. And usually your bosses feel the same, and others that you work with probably admire you for what you do. Whether you see it or not, they admire the fact that you do what you do. There's no way they could do what you do. So you're probably more admired in your workplace than you think you are. So speaking confidently, let's have a practice, shall we? Normally when I'm in a room, I have a microphone and I walk around to people and I ask them these questions. So let's start with Sally. Sally, yes, that's right, people. This is where it's your turn to speak. The reason you should become Prime Minister is... Yeah. Just say that again. The reason you should become Prime Minister is?
Because I care.
Because you care. That's right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. How about Rick? The benefits of flossing your teeth?
To get all the fibrous materials out from steaks.
Excellent. That's really good. Okay. Dentistry was his second choice there. Rani, the best superhero is?
Spider-Man, because he's probably the only one I really know.
There you go. That's something. Jane, my favourite place in the world is?
Anywhere where there is snow, because I like to feel in my happy place.
There you go. So when you're put on the spot, you can usually come up with an answer, right? Usually. And these are not overly tricky questions, are they? They're pretty simple. Let's dive into a few little harder ones. Some of you, I can only target here accordingly. John, I became a surveyor because?
I wanted to become a farmer, but my father didn't have enough money, so a surveyor seemed like a good backup. We were always looking around other people's farms and pretending to be a farmer.
Do you have a farm now?
No.
Okay. Is that in your future?
Right.
Right. And Joe, you're all very big on, taking in new people. Why should a young person become a surveyor?
Because there's high demand you will be well respected in your job. Because I think it's very hamstrung. Because I guess it's a profession not everybody can do, and there's great demand, and you'll never not have a job probably.
Right, absolutely. One of the great reasons to do it. Now, if I needed a surveying company, Linda, I should use your company because?
We care for our clients. We have a wonderfully trained staff who know what they're doing, and good product and at a good price.
Very good, very good. And but at Survey Plus we charge a little bit more, and you should pay our higher fee because
we have high quality staff that we have to pay higher because of their skills, and you'll get a better service than you will anywhere else, and you have to pay for that.
Excellent, very good. Now, Naomi, you've got somebody at your place studying to go for the board exam, correct? So he should pass his board exams because why?
Well, he's certainly put in the effort. A lot of study, a lot of training, a lot of late nights. I would hope that he'd be prepared enough to pass.
Excellent. Very good. But moving it down to what you all actually, do you like that photo? I put that in there just for you, Jane. No, not really. It's one of my favourite photos around the place. That's Jane's husband, everybody, just in case you're wondering.
He's the talker amongst us, just to let you know if you think I'm talking.
I'd probably put them both in the same bucket there, but anyway. Okay, so now let's think about our roles and where that sits. Karen, I am important in this office because
I bring everyone together to collaborate.
excellent, very good. Well, you're a galvaniser, right? Yeah, see? Excellent. So knowing your working genius should also help you when it comes to these sorts of areas, yeah? Excellent. Well done, well done. Okay, now some people don't pay their bills very well. They're a bit bad at paying their bills. So Jane, you should pay our bill because?
You engaged us for a service. Are you happy with the service that we have provided you? You would agree that you have requested and signed for. We have actually managed to pay our staff to keep this business running, even though you haven't paid us yet. So I'm sure you understand and appreciate it's only reasonable to.
There you go. Does anybody want to write that down? Jane, you should go into you could go into debt collection on behalf of
Good one.
Yeah. Okay, let's have no, that I can't use your too unique. I need a bit of a competition thing here. But we've already done that one. I'm going to skip. Oh, wait, no, I'll go to one of the girls online. Okay, Sally. Not that there's any competition in the room, but, you know, let's say I need a survey in Tamworth. I've got a couple of choices here. I should use your company because?
Because we have a highly skilled team and you'll get a quality product.
Excellent. But, John, you've quoted me and you've quoted me a bit of a higher fee. I was going to pick on Helen, but she's gone. So why should I pay your higher fee?
You've asked for a exceptional time frame, and I can promise that I can get the work done in that time frame for you.
Okay. And Rani, the directors of the company should listen to you because?
I do the day-to-day running of the business, so I know exactly what's going on, what the surveyors are thinking, what the mapping team are thinking. They're more comfortable coming to me than the directors, so they should listen to me.
That's right. You tell them. Excellent, excellent. So when we're put on the spot like that, it's not overly tricky, is it now, right now, for you to come up with those reasons? So what's the difference between doing it here and doing it there? So the question is, can you go home tomorrow and back to work, back to the office with a greater level of confidence? What more might you need to help you get to that next level of confidence? So this is for just generally if you're public, but these principles apply no matter where you're speaking. Okay, so this might be if you were asked to come and do something like what we're doing here, or if you were asked to talk at a team meeting or a conference or wherever the case might be. The principles still apply. So the important part is to plan your presentation. Know what it is that you want to say. And you need to know your audience. So who are you talking to? So obviously when I'm presenting this to you, I'm presenting it slightly differently to when I presented at the roadshow. Completely differently, not completely, but also differently when I presented in Queensland, where there's a hugely, the workforce there is very different to our workforce in New South Wales. Our New South Wales surveyors are, in my view, much more switched on. They know what they're doing. I'm not talking about surveying. I'm talking about this confidence level when it comes to speaking. I would have no problem asking any surveyor in New South Wales to present at a conference or one of our things. In Queensland, I can't get them to speak about anything because they don't have CPD, they don't go to seminars, they haven't gotten up to speak for such a long, yes, I know, it's no CPD. So they don't get up to speak, so they are much more scared about doing it because they've had no experience doing it and they haven't seen it done. So one of the advantages that you all have is you all get to see it done, you get to see it done well, and you get to learn more about it. And so up there, it's quite a challenge. And Victoria's pretty good too. They have pretty good opportunities. The problem with Victoria is that they only send registered surveyors, licensed surveyors to things. So whereas here we're having this for all of you, you'll note there's only one Victorian on the call. So, and no Queenslanders at all, because they haven't even got the concept yet that anybody outside of any of them should do training, and only this many of them go to any training. Anyway, so you want to prepare purposeful content. So if you know your audience, then you know what they want to hear and you can prepare that content to be purposeful. So it's going to actually meet the need of the problem that you're trying to solve. And then when it comes to presenting, okay, there's different ways to do it. And it depends on the group that you're presenting to. If you're presenting in a team meeting, you're likely to be sitting down. You can't get up and do your power stance. You know about the power stance? So if you're going into a meeting or something and you're nervous, one of the things you can do is give yourself greater confidence simply by the power stance. Take a breath like this, stand up straight like Spider-Man or Superman or something, and just feel more confident in you. And then you just walk into that meeting feeling a little stronger, a little more powerful. It's a thing. It's a thing. Rather than, I've got to go to this meeting. Right? So it's simple, just posture can make all the difference. Thinking about how you speak, volume. So sometimes when I'm nervous, I speak quite quickly. And so I have to concentrate and think about, am I speaking too fast? Often I'll be given like a 10 or 15 minute slot to speak that I've got a 30-minute presentation for. That's one of those too much information, too much material to give across. And that's when I'll tend to speak faster because I think I've got to get through all the material rather than skipping bits of it. Sometimes you're just better off skipping bits of it. So thinking about, you've been to those presentations and you've heard those ones, somebody gets up and they just speak plain all the way through. And on their slide, they just have words that they read to you. And you think, you could have just sent me an email, dude, really. And I say dude because usually it's meant to do that. But using pause and using emotion, also using stories in your presentation. So if you're trying to get them to fill out timesheets and you're trying to encourage them to do that, give them a story about why it matters. Talk to them about Mrs. Smith down the road, who we were able to adjust her price by whatever, because actually we've realised that when we do these details, they actually only take 2 days instead of the 3 that we've been holding. That's probably not a good example. You can all come up with a much better example than I can about that. But do you know what I mean? Like you want to come up with a story about the why. Or how about it's something like, look, I was able to give John a pay rise last week. Again, this is not something you'd probably say publicly, but you could try. You know why? Because his timesheet showed me that he is at 95% productivity. But we thought that deserved a pay rise. And then when they all come to you after the meeting and say, can I have a pay rise? You're at 75. When you get to 90, let's talk again. Why not, hey? It's a cheap trick, but it might work. That's what, so when we talk about the storytelling, you know, you want to include the head. So do explain the facts, the figures, the logical things that people will understand, but also engage their heart. What's the emotion behind that story? You know, talking about a client or talking about another staff member or something. And then the fee. What action do you want them to take? You know, that example of, well, you increase your productivity and then you can potentially. So what action should they take? So you want to give some people, you want to give them an action after each presentation that you make. And so you do want to, you know, have eye contact. Have you ever also been to those presentations where the person doesn't look at anybody and they just either look at the back of the room the whole time or they just look at their notes? You know, you want to engage. I think whether you're speaking to a room of this size, a room of 3 people, a room of 100 people or a room of 1,000 people, they're just people. They're just people. They're exactly the same people as all of you. And so just talk to them like you were in a one-on-one conversation. That's what I find helps me overcome much of my nerves, is just thinking about they're just like me. There's nothing more special or less special, just like me. And, you know, think about your movements, your hands. What are you doing with your hands, the way you're dressed? I have seen surveyors get up and present and they haven't checked themselves before they get up to present. And then, you know, so that's a bit funny. There's zips down. And it's not like you can interrupt them when they're in the middle of presenting. And so, you know, and so when we say people might laugh at me, you just overcome that by laughing at yourself afterwards. And you say, well, one of you could have told me. Why didn't somebody stop me and tell me? So I think you want to make sure that you are, you know, and if you're worried about that, if that's one of your fears, then have somebody check you before you get up to speak. Can you just make sure I look okay, make sure I've done my makeup, make sure So the presentation itself, how do you get the message across? The hook. Why should I listen to you? I think I'm choking on the granola. I'm drinking. I must have just said something that I shouldn't have said. Okay, so the hook, the introduction. I hate it when people get up and say, you know, who they are and where they're from and how great their company is because whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to get people in and before you jump into how great you are. So we like to get up and give ourselves authority. So here's my authority for why I'm here talking to you today. Whereas it would be better to give them a little something first and then lead into what gives you authority to talk about that problem. So here is the problem. So usually a hook is the problem that we all face that is similar. And then lead into what gives you the expertise and the experience to speak about, the credibility to talk about that, rather than starting with, I'm credible on this topic because. So do think about that hook and why they should listen to you. The content, like what you're going to share, you've got to have some points, have some facts, have some figures behind that. And then the took. I don't know, somebody clever came up with this, right? What's the conclusion? What is it that you want them to take away? What's the action that you want them to do with what it is that you've just presented them? So if you've got those 3 things, any statement, any presentation, doesn't matter how small or how big it might be. So Rick, you're on Bossy or you're a whatever, what are you? A young surveyor to Bossy or something, an advisor to Bossy. And they need some advisors because they're all old people, except for Narelle. Oh, no, Vicky's not that old either. Anyway, but, you know, so let's say it's something that we all come to you and we think that you should take this to Bossy. You know, you've got to present that. So what you've got to do is you've got to hook them in, tell them how things are going to go bad because people like a good crisis. You have your points and then your conclusion. So the board needs to, They won't like that, but you know what I'm saying, right? So thinking about how you word things, all those sorts of ways are, even when you're trying to talk to clients about why they should pay you money, when you're ringing them, you know, Jane started with, your job's going well, it's just about finished, right? You got the thing out of the ground. Isn't that great? We got that answer for you. It's good, right? Well, we sent you the bill 3 weeks ago. We know it hasn't been paid yet, but you've got people moving in and da-da-da, right? You know, so we'd really need this paid, you know, we've got to pay our staff, da-da-da-da-da, right? That's that story approach that will get the answer through. So what could go wrong? We've talked about some of these things. The wardrobe malfunction, one of my favourites. I've seen it many times, right? But what's the worst that could happen with a wardrobe malfunction? You'll get a laugh. And so what you want to do is you just want to laugh at yourself over that wardrobe malfunction, right? Just shake it off. It actually has no impact on what it is that you've presented. No impact on the content. And if you've got true friends around you, they'll point it out to you before you get up anyway. Your mind goes blank. Any ideas about what to do if your mind goes blank?
Have a drink of water.
Have a drink of water and wait for somebody to fill the gap. So if your mind goes blank, people will think you've paused to allow them time to talk. Except if you're on a stage presenting and there's sort of not interaction. But in a team meeting, there'd be somebody else who could fill the gap. If you do just stop when you're at a platform, you know, say you're standing behind a podium and you just pause to take a sip and recover your thoughts. Nobody will think anything of that. They'll just think it was what you planned. Have a look at your notes. If you've got notes, some people talk from notes, some people don't. Even if you're going into a team meeting and you're pitching for a, you know, challenge there, make sure you've scribbled down some points, some key bullet points or something that you want to follow. Your voice faltered. Just cough, have a drink of water, just move on, you know, that happens. If you make an offensive statement by accident, have you ever been somewhere and somebody swears sort of whatever? Or they say something and everybody's, yeah. You either apologise for it and move on, or you say, you were all thinking the same thing, admit it, you know, like, depends on what you've said, right, as to what that might be. If you have a nervous stutter, ums and ahs and blah, 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 I could pick on somebody. He's not here, so I can pick on him. Tom Grinter, who is the Deputy Surveyor General, if you've ever heard him talk, he's very, very confident on his area of expertise. When he has to talk about something that's not in his sphere, he ums and ahs and stutters and da 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 da. But when it's on his area, he's straight through. Like, because we have him for webinars, and so on the webinar, I'll say, well, I need you to talk about these 3 things. So the first thing's not his area, so blah, 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 and then he gets to his area that he's confident about, straight through it, no problem, and then on the last one, he's So what he should do is put the stuff that he's confident about first, and that will give him confidence. I've told him this. That will give him confidence to go through the rest. So if there's something like that that you think gives you, you know, something that you're stuttering about, then put the thing that you're most confident about first. So if your points, you know, the second one, I'm not quite sure about that. That was the boss's idea. Not even sure I agree with it as a reason we should try something. Make that the last one. And say, this is something Dave thought was a good idea, so I thought I'd share it with you all. You know? You trip or fall up the stage, up the steps, up the whatever, well, just laugh it off. I mean, unless you've broken something, that could be a problem. The tech doesn't work. If there's no PowerPoint or the microphone doesn't work or whatever, you've got to just get past that, which is why you sometimes need to have written notes. If you're worried about this particular thing, then do have some written notes. Fortunately, these days, we've all got Teams, right? So if our something went down now, I could just pick up my phone and open my PowerPoint on my Teams and I'd have my notes. It wouldn't matter that you couldn't see the slides. I would have my notes and I could still talk to you. So again, if you're presenting on a formal platform and you lose, there's multiple backup ways. So just have a backup if the tech doesn't work. If the lights go out, make a joke usually is the thing to do, and just wait until the organisers sort it out. If there's hecklers, now none of you would have hecklers, but it might be possible that there'd be somebody on the team who wants to heckle you and go, oh yeah, timesheets, this old nugget. Are we going around again on the timesheets, are we? Yeah, okay.
Well, you got it right the first time, we wouldn't have to, would we?
There you are, you see. Put them in their place. Put them in their place.
That's it, that one.
Or even just say, yeah, I thought we'd start with yours, Tim.
Name and shame.
Name and shame. Absolutely, absolutely. So I've got no problem calling hecklers out or ignoring them. It depends on who the heckler is, right, and what your relationship with them is. No one knew you were coming to speak. Well, you know, if you sort of weren't on the program and you show up or something, there can sometimes be organisational issues that can go wrong. You just say, oh, well, good, I got out of that one. And you've got it prepared for the next time. If this is an area that is something that, you know, this is one of the things that we try to overcome through the Business Academy. We try to give surveyors a level of confidence around some of their business knowledge so that they can get up and present on some of these things and others with their team and have a greater level of confidence. I don't know, John, you're a graduate. Do you feel that the Academy gave you a bit more confidence about going into business and some of the stuff you've got to do?
Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it, and especially because I was so new to all the topics. It was definitely an eye.
Yeah.
Like any course you do, it sort of points in the right direction. Hey, this is this. If you want more, go here or read this book. There's some good ideas in that. So I thought it was really good. And
yeah, it's great.
Recommend it on board.
So good timing. Ed's just coming into the lobby. Oh, now why is he joining on Teams? I'll just ring Ed in just a minute. Ed's trying to get in, but he needs to click on the Zoom link. Maybe I sent him the wrong link. Anyway, so the Business Academy is now the Business Academy is not just for surveyors. We have had admin managers, office managers come through the academy. Right? It's not just for them. We have had engineers, planners, all sorts. And the Victorian one, Rani, is coming up in August. We start in August, I think. So again, it's designed for owners and business leaders, but it's not just for surveyors. So if that's something that you think you want to do to kind of go into that next level, then it's for all of you. It's not just for surveyors. So I encourage you to think about that. I think that's the end of my slides. Questions, comments? I just need to figure out how to get Ed here. I thought I'd send him the right link. Comments, thoughts?
Fake it till you make it.
I was going to say, it's preparation, a lot of it, isn't it? Like if you're more prepared, you're going to feel more confident.
Yes. Yes, that's right. And preparing for anything, you know, it doesn't matter what you're going to present on. You want to be prepared. Ed. Oops, wrong Ed. Other thoughts? Any other tips that I didn't cover that you sort of thought I should have?
When you were saying about don't just look at the back of the room. I was told find someone or find two people that are on different parts. And probably not down the middle, but like on the sides, and keep going between them. And you apologise to them afterwards for being that person. But you then actually at least look like you're directing towards someone.
I think for your supporting resources like the PowerPoint, I find a lot of surveyors tend to just cram so much. Even people that have been presenting a long time, and I'm from a marketing background, and that's just the worst thing that you can do is put up a heap of text. People aren't going to read it. Looks like you don't really know your content, particularly if you just read it. I think unless it's more, I think Craig, IMD, he's very much about minimal stuff on the slides, and I think that captures people's attention more because they're focused on you and not the slide.
And one of the things Craig does is he has a lot of notes that goes with each slide. He might have a picture, but with that picture is lots and lots of notes that he follows along. So you know, what you've got on the slide needs to be enough to capture the attention of the people in the room. The other component of it is what you're going to say, and you can have a whole page of notes for those if you want to. So
I just look at the slides and look at the layout errors.
Yep.
Does anyone else do that?
Yeah.
I can't help it. I think, oh, you've got 2 spaces there and you've got one on the ones above, and it distracts me.
Oh, good. Here's Pam now. Hi, Pam.
How are you, Michelle?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good.
So we've just finished our session on communication, and one of the topics that we've talked about is how we communicate to our surveyors that they need to complete their timesheets. And so we thought, as we went round earlier in the day, that maybe you could give us a little bit of an update on, you know, where Abtract's up to, some of those things. And if you've got any tips and tools for us, that would kind of help us along that path.
Right.
Can you see everybody, or you can't see everybody? I don't know why the camera's... Oh, I know. I'll turn the camera around. Go ahead.
Can you hear me without my headset?
Okay, can she see us now? There you go. Now you can see us, right?
And see some of you, yes?
Great.
That's cool. Can you hear me without my headset?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Right, we'll get rid of that. Okay, timesheets. This is fairly impromptu, as Michelle will know. So I hope I cover what you need to hear. Timesheets are, people love them and hate them, and you have to learn to love them for all sorts of reasons. Timesheets are your friend, and they're really important. And they help your business earn their fees. They help staff be rewarded for their efforts and their work. And I guess in a nutshell, they are to be embraced for all sorts of reasons. I understand from a very reliable source, from our good friends at Survey Plus and from Miles Green in particular, that only 3 out of 4 surveyors use timesheets. It kind of begs the question, what does everybody else do, and how do they get a grip on where their jobs and their projects are up to? And the idea of tracking the time and documenting what you've done and what staff have done, at the end of the day is so you don't have to store it in your head, you don't have to make it up. It's nothing that you've got to remember at invoicing time when people say, oh, do you know what we did on such and such a job, and we know we quoted X, but how much time have we got, and what can we bill, and so on and so forth. So it's effectively, I mean, pre-computers, people would use a diary, and a timesheet is a digital diary, full stop. You know, it's nothing to be feared. It's nothing to avoid. It helps you do your job in your place of work. And Miles raised the question when he talked about timesheets and how at Survey Plus they have embraced that concept of tracking their time. Timesheets are about letting the business know who's done what work over what period of time, not just so that you can produce an invoice with some confidence that the time you're asking for on your invoice from your client is valid. And if your client comes back to you and says, you know, well, how come your billing is $10,000 this month? We didn't expect that much, and what have you done for it? There's no kind of retrospective scramble to say, okay, or to try and justify, I guess, what time you've billed and what you're asking your client for, because you've got cold, hard facts that you know you've done this amount of time on your project, and this is what you're asking for on your invoice. So there's no kind of scramble you're not put on the back foot when you're trying to justify what your invoice fee may be. The other, I mean, it's good reason to produce a timesheet on a regular basis is that invoicing can be something that needs to be managed in terms of productivity and profitability, not just on every job, but on types of work and for individuals. So if an individual is performing at a particular level, it's good to be able to, especially at salary review time, for argument's sake, to say, okay, well, look, this is the percentage of productivity this person has achieved over this period of time. So for that reason, we think that they're justified in requesting that their salary review or salary is reviewed and increased to whatever level, because you have some cold, hard facts. So, I mean, at Abtract, we say Abtract is the single source of truth for everything project related, and it starts with timesheets, and it filters right through to some very detailed KPIs that many people will say they cannot run their business without. So it's not kind of seat of your pants stuff, it's cold, hard facts, and it starts with a timesheet. It shows what kinds of work is profitable for you than others. Where are you earning your fees? Where are you writing off time? What kinds of jobs are you writing off time on? How can you improve that? So all those things really come back to the nitty-gritty of timesheet data and the accuracy of it and the regularity of it as well. So there's really no valid reason why.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Just saying that for a minute.
I don't know if anybody's got any questions about that, but how many people watching or listening don't do timesheets in their office?
I'm leaving now.
Doing it, yes. Yes, I think they're all doing, a number of them are already on Abtract actually.
Yep, great.
Yes. I'm not getting any negatives here, so.
All good. Yeah, all good. Yep. And so, yeah, as I said, timesheets are way more than just having employees become accountable for the time that they are at work or the time they're working on their jobs. It filters through to a whole lot more really meaty and substantial information on how they're tracking, how their quotes and proposals are they accurate, are they underquoting? You can learn from recoveries on jobs and projects through that timesheet data. So it's pretty powerful stuff if you think about that. And it's not about trying to manage your employees and making sure you squeeze every last 5-minute interval out of them. It's about being aware of how the business is going, and we're all coming to work to earn money, and timesheets help us do that.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Specific questions? I know we're looking for the silver bullet, aren't we? We're looking for that silver bullet that says, how do we get them to do it?
Yep.
We had a major issue with timesheets at our business, and we found that the biggest issue was people were unsure of how to fill in the timesheets and were too scared to ask for help. And so we would go through training regularly. This is how you do it, emails all the time. This is how you do it. But then we set goals, a quarterly goal. If 95% of timesheets are filled in, we'll go on a lunch or we'll go do a fun activity, and the whole group of surveyors would choose what they want to do. And if at the end of the quarter they reach that target, we'd go do it. And we don't have a problem with timesheets anymore. They're really good.
That's good tip.
Yeah.
Allowed twice a week telling people to fill the timesheets out. I went from about 15 to now 1 or 2 a week. So that's not bad, just with an email, just a reminder.
Yeah, we've got an email that goes out just the day before payday as well, but they're still serial offenders. Majority.
Would you say the serial offenders are on wages or salary though?
Wages.
So if they're on wages, they don't get any of their extra. Yeah.
That's what we've decided that,
It's twice usually, I think.
But she's still, they say, well, she mustn't need the money, so.
We had a client, or still have a client in New Zealand, in Central Otago actually, and they had a recidivist timesheet employee, and the wages stopped. Absolutely 100% illegal, but they withheld the salary.
Allowed to withhold salaries, but yes, do go on there.
I only ever had to do it once, and that person just fell into line. But I mean, at the end of the day, there will always be people who drag the chain and kick and scream when it's time to have their timesheet completed. But yeah, at the end of the day, if they don't understand the importance of timesheets within the company, it's not from a personal perspective, it's a company perspective, and they're part of that organisation. And if they feel part of that organisation, they'll want to support it. So yeah, I mean, short of walking through the office with a big stick or a bendy ruler, you know, every Monday morning or Friday afternoon, they have to understand the bigger picture. And it's not because the boss wants to know, you know, how many cups of coffee did they have or toilet breaks. It's not trivial stuff like that. It's important stuff about how they earn money, how their salaries are covered, you know, how a job is profitable or not.
Great.
I don't understand why there's a problem. Like, it's just part of like doing your field notes or shutting the door on the vehicle when you get out of the car. Like,
Well, interestingly, you say about the field notes. I mean, we're running an upskilling session coming up in the next few weeks on how to do field notes, because that's one of the other problems we hear is that surveyors don't want to take field notes anymore. Or not registered surveyors, but you know what I'm saying.
And the younger ones, as they're coming through, they're not as good as, even though they've been shown to do it to a certain level, they're not. We've given, we'll do a gift card for spot check on field notes. Did one last month, spot check on who had the best pack view. I'm pretty sure we did timesheets as to get detail, to actually get enough detail.
So that's hard getting them to articulate what they've done sometimes, but I know Helen has someone, you know, but generally, you know, they need to be doing it every day, and that's part of the job. Before you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It becomes a habit, doesn't it? That, and once it becomes a habit, it's not an onerous chore. It's just a 2-minute thing at the end of the day. And look, with Abtract, you can do it on the phone, on your phone. You can do it on the train. You can do it with traffic lights. You can do it whatever. But there should be absolutely no excuses for not having a timesheet up to date. And if you leave it till a Friday afternoon or just before your pay period, there's something wrong, you know. Just get in and do it early. It's like brushing your teeth at night before you go to bed. Why would you not do it, you know?
We've got it in their KPIs. It's part of their job description. You know, the next thing I suppose is to say, well, for your wage review, you know, you've got to achieve all of these KPIs, not just 90% of them. Why didn't I get that extra, you know, pay rise? Well, you're not doing your timesheets.
We have people dumping time in the wrong spots as well. It's big synergy, and they just dump times wherever they feel like it or wherever it's quickest. So then the admin staff go through and move times around because they're just dumping times everywhere. We have that problem as well.
Is there something for that, Pam?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every timesheet should be reviewed by somebody in the office, a senior of some description, somebody in the office who double checks that not just is the timesheet complete, but is the time entered on the correct job. You know, if they put a comment in, if you're forced to comment, have they put a meaningful comment in? It's just, it's easy to do. Yeah, it's easy to do. So the timesheet's complete, they tick it, it's complete, it's for review, somebody reviews it and then locks it. So you can't retrospectively go back and say, oh, I forgot to put my timesheet in full on Friday afternoon, and here's another 6 hours on this job. But hey, somebody else in the office has already created an invoice thinking it's a final invoice, and here's another chunk of time. Now, what do we do with it? You know, do we look silly and say to the client, hey, timesheets weren't up to date, and look, we need to ask for some more money, or do you write it off? You know, it's pretty critical stuff. But it's really very easy for somebody to say, okay, yep, cast my eye over it, just like you might an Excel spreadsheet in the old days. Cast your eye over it. Is it complete? Yes, it's done. No, it's not. Go to the person and get it done, and then lock it, and you're away. There's no chore about it. It's really easy. Should be easy. Needs to be easy for them to do it.
See, it's easy.
It is in
It's time consuming though.
No.
All that chasing, you know, like when you've got so many surveyors and so many jobs each week, it's time consuming if they haven't done it.
It's easy to see, you know, who's short of 6 hours this week or whatever. And at the end of the day, either they've got to be a grown up and say, okay, well, this is my responsibility, I need to do this. Or if they don't think like that, somebody who's their senior just needs to say, hey, you're short of 6 hours this week, get it in. You know, somebody's got to play hardball in the office.
There you go. Good. All right. Anything else, Pam, you've got to share with us that we can look forward to that's coming from Abtract soon, or any highlights that you want to talk to us about while you've got us?
It's an opportunity. Look, we are continually, as you know, Michelle, we're continually developing this system. We've been around a long time, but we get a lot of really positive feedback from surveyors and others who are using it and getting real benefit from it. The development path is based on feedback from our users who keep asking us for more and more things. So we've got a timesheet app that's out that people are loving. We've got an approval process where if surveyors or others are on client sites and they need to have a sign off as an approval, then that happens through Abtract as well. Lots of really great reports that are continually being expanded and increased. So, heaps of stuff as businesses evolve. Software has to evolve with them. And we're doing lots of migrations as well, currently from all sorts of other systems, one of which I just heard mentioned earlier on. If you want to know more about Abtract, come and have a look at abtract.com. Lots of videos on our website, knowledge bases there. You can start a 30-day free trial, or just pick up the phone and give us a call, and we would love to talk to you.
Tell them ACS sent you. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Yep, always. Yep.
Any other questions for Pam? Great. Thanks for jumping in, Pam. We appreciate your time today.
Lovely to
Yes.
had a great event, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Pam. We'll see you in New Zealand.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be there.
I haven't done any promotion at all today about Queenstown. Tell them why they should come to our conference in Queenstown, Pam.
Queenstown is the most fabulous location at any time of the year. It is just super. If it's snowing, it's gorgeous. If the sun's shining, it's beautiful. If you've not been to Queenstown, it's so easy from Australia. Just to hop on a plane, and even the landing in Queenstown is just magical. You sneak in between two mountain ranges. It's just super. Yeah, so look forward to seeing many of you as you can get down there.
Great. Well, thanks, Pam. We appreciate you dropping in.
All good. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks.
For the rest of your day, team. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So yes, I haven't done any promotion for the conference. So that's our national conference, our Australian conference that's going to be in New Zealand. We were thinking about Darwin or Perth were the other two options. And it was actually the same price, if not a bit cheaper, to go to Queenstown. And
we're still overdue.
Yeah, we are overdue for Perth. So whether we'll do Perth next year, I don't think we will. Yeah, we'll probably do Cape Schanck next year. Although we're not having one next year because FIG conference is going to be in Brisbane on the 6th to the 10th of April next year. So we don't know what we're going to do about the awards next year. But Brisbane you should all come to. Very good. You should all come. Why we only send surveyors to things I don't understand? You should all put in your submissions and requests. Do your pitch using your learnings today. to make your thing to go, just saying. Okay, well, so the last bit that we've got, as much energy as you've got left in you all, is to address some of those topics that we talked about earlier in the day and see if there's something that we haven't covered that you kind of hoped we would and that you really burningly need an answer to before you go home to feel like you've gotten something out of today. So, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Does anyone here organise mortgagee consent for their clients during subdivision process?
I have. We do.
You do? Is anybody having any trouble with that?
The banks are going stupid.
It's got to do with PEXA and the issues around ID.
No, you're talking about just getting the endorsements from the banks.
Yeah, so when I started this job, when I took over from the previous lady, it was all paper-based. So we would send out a printed, signed letter in the post, problem solved. Now it all has to be digitally reviewed before we can send them the documents. So we have to find an email contact for the bank or whatever it is. And now they're coming back asking for the mortgage to be redone, property valuation, ID from the client. I've had a couple of the finance companies say, you need to pay us to lodge with LRS and for the titles, new titles. And we said, no, please, we're lodging with LRS. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's becoming a nightmare process. And I'm just wondering if anyone...
So some of this has got to do with the e-conveyancing components, is that, I think, and there are changes. And the banks have absolutely no idea. So, yes, last week I attended a meeting at ORG around some of these challenges. And the conveyancers are having significant issues with ORG and the way things are being lodged and problems in lodging. And so something that they've been raising with the RG specifically, I didn't think was impacting us, so I didn't say anything, sorry. You're having the same problem?
Yeah, since COVID, I think there's been, like in a lot of industries, there's been a loss of talent too. So we're getting people that don't understand what's going on. But each bank has, we're sort of finding out, each bank has a preferred method. So we've got all that written down and we attack the right people. But generally, we'll go into the local branch, or we'll get someone's name from the client. Who's your contact? And that way, at least we can follow it. And it feels like someone's sort of responsible then, rather than we used to just send them off to wherever they wanted them. But as far as the ID goes, we've never had to show ID because the plans are endorsed by the client.
They're coming back asking us for the client to go to the post office and fill out some.
Yeah, it's got to do with the new e-conveyancing.
We've never had that, and I'm wondering whether that's picked up by our conveyancers, our clients' conveyancers, because we've never had that issue.
Yeah. It sounds like it's got something to do with the conveyancing issue. So probably the best thing would be for me to put you in touch with the Conveyancing Association and talk to them about that.
But so far we've just gone like, that's outside of our scope, you'll have to go direct to the client for that, which is fine, but it's just why it's happening and how bad is it getting.
It's happening because of PEXA, and it's happening because of the e-conveyancing and everything going digital online and the requirements about identification. Now it's over the top, but it is what it is, and it's only going to go that way more and more. So I think that most of it, like there was a push for us to become a, what do you call it? A lodger, whatever, something with PEXA. And we, on behalf of all of you, but there weren't enough of you that were doing it. So it's particularly in regional areas, but there's not enough of you doing that. And most people have been able to partner with a local conveyancer to get them to do those components. So I think probably you just need to find a good local conveyancer that you can work with on those matters.
That's what we're wondering is, because with the asking the client for a name, that's something we've always done. But the last 6 months, I'd say, we're having more and more clients saying, I don't have a name. Or you go to the local branch and they say, we don't have the foggiest, here's the name for the head office, which is
so bad.
And that's where we're having trouble. If they've got a name, you're pretty right, follow it through them.
Yeah.
Right, because I was wondering about that, because we've had a couple of times where a client's working with a lawyer or someone who they've got a really good working relationship with, and we say just get them to get consent. And this is another thing that confuses me. If we go to the bank and ask them to give consent before we've gone to council, flat out refusal. We'll not even look at it. But the lawyer can get them to sign before council every single time.
Yeah, that's right.
Why?
Because the lawyers are lodging something with PEXA. That's why. So it's all got to do with PEXA. I suspect that's my best. I sit in and listen on all these things about interoperability and things with PEXA, and so I suspect that's a thing there.
So just get a conveyancer to deal with this.
Well, we've never been able to get a bank to sign before the council, except for one client who had huge, was a big client across New South Wales, and they seemed to be the only one that had this ability to get one of the big four to sign before we could get the council certificate. We don't go to banks before we get the sub-cert. I don't know anyone else been able to get the
No, we can't, but
Yeah.
the lawyers can.
Yes, I've never seen that.
So, like, if we have a client who's dealing with their lawyer for some other component of the job, and so the lawyer's witnessing their 88B or whatever it be, and we say, well, can you just get the bank to sign where you've got the paperwork? They'll have it back to us in 2 weeks before it's even gone anywhere near council. But if we go to the bank, even after council,
That's
it's
a
weeks
that's
of process and
so
yeah, right.
Lawyers earning his money there.
yeah. Okay. Now, so the other things that we wanted to talk about then were staff search and getting people in the regions. So everybody having trouble finding it. Does everybody need staff right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got some good secrets that they want to share about how to do it well?
I mentioned a couple over the cuppa at no morning tea. One was overseas candidates, but it's expensive and scary. The other one was that I may have pointed out, you can target some government employees via LinkedIn.
Not in the room, just other government.
But that in itself, you have to be strategic about it. Either get a recruitment person to do it, but strategically look at someone's background. And that's where a lot of it is now, LinkedIn anyway. So it's not about putting out an ad. Like a surveyor knows they can get a job if they want a job. They can go to wherever they want and ask rather than actually wait for an ad to appear. So instead, target them, see if you can find someone through LinkedIn who might look like they prefer regional areas or type of thing. And the worst they can do is say no. Like, there's nothing lost in asking.
Any other tips and tricks? What about even in the government? Do you need surveyors?
Yeah. We can track them pretty well on the coast, but inland it's definitely a bit harder. I guess personally I find that I don't necessarily spruik the work so much, more just what you do outside of work or the extracurricular.
Because when you work for the government, you only have to work 35 hours a week, right?
Well,
You get RDOs and you get
Extra super.
and all that stuff.
Pay like a registered when you're a graduate. Oh, sorry, no, never been there before.
That's how it works. Just all those sort of things because, I'm based out of Parks, so that's where the office is and no one wants to move to Parks. So it's pretty well trying to encourage them. We're really flexible, so I guess we target the flexibility, not the pay, because we can't match private, but it's more the flexibility side of things, which, I don't know, for a lot of younger generations, I find that it's quite big for them, flexibility and, having all that sort of stuff, more so than money to some extent.
Do you have a graduate program still where you'll take them in and work them through while they're studying or only once they've graduated? Yeah. That's a changing government approach. And that's most governments are not doing that anymore either. So that's an opportunity. So I think what I am seeing, or one of the things that I know, and Sally might be able to talk to this, something that Hanlon's did was offer that scholarship to help them go through Newcastle Uni. They study full time but work for you in the holidays and weekend, I don't know, whenever they work for you. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's right. We've got 2 that are doing that at the moment, and they would come back. So one only just left again last week, so came back to work for the school holidays. And then, they find it really helpful when it comes to their uni studies as well, because they've got that extra little bit of understanding. So time will tell. Hopefully they will come to work for us full time at the end of it. But it's definitely been good so far to have them come at the holidays and work for us.
So it's a huge risk and it's a huge investment, and we can talk about it publicly because, Mitch and Belinda advertised it on LinkedIn, so it's not a secret that they've done it. But this concept of basically paying for them, or not paying for them, but, to go through uni, giving them funding to help them do their uni course. They come home, they work for them when they're home, and the idea is hopefully that when they finish, they'll stay with them. So often to local people, to go to uni, to do the course, to come back and stay with them. So, it's an investment. I don't know whether that, potentially works for you also. But this concept of they don't have to go to Newcastle or RMIT, they could go to USQ and still work for you, but study full-time and work part-time for you. I don't know if you've tried anything like that.
Well, so far Stephen's still with us, obviously, but no, it's not worked anywhere else. Like we had one guy, he's nearly finished his study and then he left, so you've already put however many years and time and whatever, and that's happened.
Was he a local?
As far as I understand, yes.
You're right.
I think he switched careers. So it's hard to draw off enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I think there's risk there, right? But unless you throw your hat in the ring, you don't have any hope. So I did that. I did what we're talking about with Daryl, and I went back and I did have a holiday for 18 months with another firm in town, but I did end up back with Daryl and David. And for me, personally,
and then you bought a company.
So it was a long-term play for them, and it worked for them. But for me, I wouldn't have gone back to Tamworth. Like I went to Newcastle, Helens in Sydney. There was no way I was going back to Tamworth unless I'd already shaken his hand to go back to Tamworth. So, I agree it's not going to work. We've currently got one young man down here at UNSW. I'm hoping he comes back, but I just figure if you throw your hat in the ring enough times, you're going to get someone to stick. And the other thing that Hamlet and us and a few other surveyors in town will work hard on is the maths and surveying, which has morphed into something else in
Surveying Unleashed, we're calling it now.
And
we're doing it in Coffs Harbour on Thursday. Thursday.
And I just think we've got to, there's a lot of companies that put a lot of effort into the big, the country surveyors and various things around it, and I'm not doing that, but I'm trying to get Helen's involved with that Surveying Unleashed, and I think if we all just do a little bit and help bring the awareness up, we will get kids. You basically got to be knit not to get a job. You're going to be paid pretty well. You're inside and outside. I don't understand how eventually we won't get a bit of a
Well, I think we are already starting to see an uplift. I think there's been an uptake. UNSW numbers are higher this year. USQ numbers are higher. Newcastle's down. That's a University of Newcastle problem, not a surveying problem. And so, I do think, I don't know about Victoria. I don't know how the numbers are doing down at RMIT. I did attend something with them earlier in the year and I couldn't quite get a picture. They didn't know, which it's really more about RMIT than it is about the profession. Certainly the Surveyors Academy is off the hook. 340 people on a waiting list right now to do our RTO will go ahead by mid-year. So we should be able to offer another cert for our course.
That was the problem in the regions, but we have nowhere to train. So we're getting kids, everyone thinks it's a degree thing, and then, oh no, you can do TAFE, but you've got to go to Albury or go down to Newcastle full time. So that we had one young man go through that and he loved it, and the way it was presented was great. And the better the education becomes, I think the easier it's going to be, because I can now say, hey, You know, maybe you want to be a mechanic, maybe you want to be a builder. Well, I can give you the same level of training and be a surveyor. So it's not just a uni thing, it's now TAFE.
I think the work experience has been a good thing for us. We've got 3 people that we've employed recently who've done work experience with us, and we thought, oh, yeah, and we've taken them on further, and they've been great finds. Even just that 1 week tells you enough.
Yeah.
Almost what kind of person.
Well, and the work experience numbers have grown exponentially of what we're doing. So much so that, you know, the task force programming is now in Queensland. We're talking more to Victoria about how to get it more stronger there, WA. So, you know, I think we're starting to get some real momentum. I think the answer to how do you get them in the regions and how do you get them to stay in the regions is really about you and your culture and your engagement with your local schools. Anywhere that you are. I mean, Northern Beach is the same, right? You guys go to all those Northern Beaches things. Beveridge Williams is at every school thing. I think, you know, transport, just join with DCS. They go to lots of schools at Bathurst and whatever.
They're joining with us now.
Are they? Okay, good. Or whatever. Just get together, government.
Yeah, I agree. I think the TAFE thing is a real problem. You know, people, not everyone is suited to uni, but suited to TAFE. But TAFE at Ultimo is so bad.
So bad. So look, our RTO will be, we had a meeting last week. Our RTO will be approved by mid-May. So we will be able to launch our next course in July or August. We're just working those dates through now. And we've got more teachers coming online, though we still need more.
Are you doing Cert 3 though, or only Cert 4?
Cert 4. We don't think you need to do a Cert 3.
You can go straight into Cert.
Straight into Cert 4.
Right, okay.
So TAFE will tell you that's not the case, but it is the case. So you have to have a Cert 4 to do the diploma. That's the only requirement. So we start at Cert 4, which is a 12-month program. So, you know, if you've got, and it's a traineeship still, so you can still get them on as a trainee. So if you've got anybody out there that you want to start sort of now, or not now, just wait till I get the RTO signed off. Mid-May, start them. June, July, straight into the Cert 4, and then onto the diploma. And ideally they are working on the job, learning on the job. They see that it's actually not difficult, you know, all of that, and they go on and study and do their degree. Remember, we still need registered surveyors. So, you know, we are still working towards that. But
we need qualified field staff too.
We do, that's right.
And getting, like, we're having the same problem. Our closest TAFE that does anything is Albury.
Yeah, and it's closer to you than it is for most people.
Yeah, which is great, but it's still a long way, and most of it's done on a computer. And, you know, if they're not someone who's a self-starter.
Yeah. So our course is teacher-led, online 1 day a week. So, and 4 days a week with you in the workplace. So they have a supervisor in your workplace who actually oversees what they're learning, and we work with the employers on a monthly or unit basis on what they're learning.
So much easier for, because a lot of the people who are going to want to do that field job are people who you sit them in front of the computer screen with a textbook. It's not there.
I know we're talking sort of Cert 4 here, but also if you look at Year 10 work experience students, and if you've got competent students that you do want to take through, you can put them on a school-based traineeship too, where if you're going to become an RTO, you could do the training for them, and then you employ them in your company for a couple of days a week. So they could be there in your office for 2 days a week, plus a day doing the training through the RTO. At the moment, I think it's TAFE that's running it anyway online. And then a couple of days at school, like you put them on industry-based learning, so they're learning about the industry, and then hopefully at the end of Year 12, they'll transition straight into your work.
Yes, we're getting a lot of calls to do school-based traineeships, particularly in Queensland, but more and more here as well. And so that'll be the next thing we have to tackle. I don't have enough teachers to do it right now. So I've got a couple more teachers coming online. AusSearch is offering scholarships for people to do their TAE, to teach it, because you've got to have a qualification to teach it. So we've got scholarships to help pay them, and it's a 2-week course. I just spoke to one of the guys who went through, said it's pretty intense. It's a 10-day course, straight through over 2 weeks, and then you have to do the prac stuff, but we're going to help them with the prac.
So, you know, we've got a couple of retired guys that are going to do it, which is good. But, you know, if there's any others. No, that's right, they don't. So if you know of anybody else who you think might be a good candidate for that, then, you know, let us.
Do you think it'll ever change that registered surveyors have to have the uni degree and maybe just a TAFE degree, a TAFE qualification?
No, I don't think it'll ever change. I can't see. So the Council of Reciprocating Boards meet. In fact, they just met last week. They have the National Competency Framework for how that's got to be done. None of them are talking about downgrading that degree component. It'll never happen. No.
It's a bit risky though, isn't it? Really, with what you're asking registered surveyors to
sign. They're, you know, liable for life on the plans that they sign. You want them to have that level of structure and learning to what they're going to do. So yeah, it'll never change. What we'd like to do is get some sort of recognition and competency acknowledgement for the trainees, the technicians and those with a diploma for their level. So we'd like to see, like you're a great guy that's on construction that manages all that sort of stuff, right? That has no whatever, he's just got a diploma or a bad diploma or something. We'd like to see more acknowledgement of that level and how we can uplift that. So we'd like to get them added to the Act. Probably never going to happen. So we're working on an industry certification process. GCA have one, but from all reports it's not very good. And so we're going to look at doing our own. But we want to come up with a standard first. There's a bit of a lack of standardised approach, whereas registered surveyors have the degree and they have that national competency framework that's already been established for degree plus, but there's nothing for anything below that. So we'd like to develop a standard for something below that, and that's one of the big projects we're working on that we're going to talk about in Queenstown.
But for what benefit? Like, it's not. I mean, with a registered surveyor, they're able to sign things off. So, what would this?
So it's for a level of quality and a level of acknowledgement about who can and can't do work. So, right now I've got a meeting. Dave's joining the meeting that I've got on tomorrow about anybody can run out and buy a scanner and scan a thing and provide the data and say, here you go. Well, who's to say that that data is of a standard that meets the requirements of that job? Set out is one of the biggest claims that's made from insurance purposes. So there's no requirement that says that you've got to have any qualification at all to do a survey set out. Anybody can do it. In fact, in Melbourne, the CFMEU said that anybody can do it as long as they're a union member. That's the only qualification that they've got to have. So part of the reason that we're looking to do this is because there's no acknowledgement of the level of skill and qualification you've got to have to do set out. Or detail surveys.
So you crack down on people signing off on more than they could have actually signed off. But there is still there's a market of techs they'll do what they can. So you'd still rather the industry as a whole have a quality standard that even if they're only doing details, they're actually at least doing it to a certain standard and keeping the industry at a higher respectability, quality.
Well, I think 4:30 is a good time to end. Seeing we cut your lunch break short, I think we could cut the afternoon bit short, unless there's anything else that you want to talk about that you don't think we've talked about. Earlier we said communication is the key to everything. Hopefully you've got a few little tips that you can take home to help communicate more effectively. You all eat well now?
One more quick question, sorry. We're in the process of updating our work health and safety management system.
Yes.
Because we have a 150-page document.
Yes.
That obviously does not get followed properly because it's 150 pages. And I'm trying to look at it, but I don't have I have an idea of what the guys are doing out there, but I don't have the know-how to do that properly.
Yes. We don't either. So on our website, we have a work health and safety kit, information kit, and all it does is send you to WorkSafe website to find the latest information. Part of the problem is things change so regularly. So having a policy and having a manual, I think, is quite problematic. I don't know. I mean, you guys have one, both of you, I know have one.
We are introducing a certificate 4 in work health and safety, which will be a short course that you can do that gives you a certificate 4 in work health and safety. It will be delivered face-to-face the first time, and then it's going to be online as part of our new RTO. So that doesn't help you from an admin book policy manual perspective, but it helps you by putting your team one by one through that course. So when you have to tick a box with the government because you're doing a project for transport that says, have you, what's your work health and safety thing? You say, we've all got certificate 4s in work health and safety, and that will tick their box. So
there's companies that do it online as well, and that they'll have it as modules, and so everyone has to log in and be able to pass each certain thing, and at least you're going to be paying God for it, but the onus is on them to keep it up to date. So keeping up to date with any changes in work health and safety, if you're a small business, you don't have an HR person, it's not really hard.
That's the problem. So with all this new stuff that's come out, all the new respect at work and the whole changes to everything, we've gone over all our policies, and we've actually had there's a local firm in town, lawyers that deal with that. We've had them look at all that. That's now up to date and sorted. And they've done a WHS policy, which is like 3 pages or something. But then apparently we have to have a management system as well of the actual nitty-gritty how to. That's where we're a bit stuck, because the lawyers obviously can't help with that. And if you can go to a WHS specialist, but you're $3,500 for them to look at yours and say, yes, that's good, or no, it's not.
Is there software? What's the online software, like Employment Hero or one of those things? Anybody, what do you all do? I'm looking at YouTube.
New South Wales, they've got templates and things that you can use.
We've got a QA manager that does all that, so I just get given it's great, because I was from a small business and I was having the same problem. We had to do our own, and it was never up to scratch, and we never followed procedure. Now we've got this big company, I can see the difference in the two, how they work.
Because I can get stuff off, the WHS government online and look at them, but I then need the surveyors to sit down with me for a couple of hours and say, yes, we do that, no, we don't do that,
I understand your points. What do you do, Joe, in that space?
We have a safety committee. As part of our IMS, we regularly audit our policies. We've had safety consultants come in as well and review our documentation. So it's work in progress, even for a bigger company. Things change all the time, and just keeping ahead.
And we did look into that option as well, but that's
so expensive.
That's more money.
And that size can afford. What about you two? Anything you're the right size? Because you were looking at
I would say I'm in a similar spot. It makes you go, shit, when was the last time I reviewed it? And it's like you can have the documents, but it's the whole, where's the guarantee that they've read it, that they're following it, and the reminder, it's like it's far easier to send everyone off and do the first aid course.
Well, we've done that.
But you know what I mean? It's just like you actually want the equivalent.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
You actually wanting the equivalent where it's this symbol to go, here's someone who's going to train you to do this, boom, boom, boom. And as I say, that's where I years ago, and I never followed it up. I did look into some of it's like there are these ones that it's online, and keeping everything up to scratch at least becomes their liability. You're paying for it, make them work for it. But it is that whole, each staff member has to get online to do the module, to tick the box, so you can say, yes, we have done.
Which I would be great.
But you still need to...
Generally...
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking, I'll have a chat with Michelle later, but is this something that becomes something that can be looked at for the industry?
That'd be amazing, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's because we're such a particular beast. That's the reality. We're a very, very particular beast. And as you said, WHS company who does that whole thing to then look at here's our specific circumstances. It's like, oh God, yeah, who's going to fork out the funds?
And this is the problem, is they either want to come out and spend time in our office, or they want us to tell them all the stuff which I don't know, which is the whole problem of why I'm asking PM.
Would you like?
Because this is- I have no expertise in that area at all.
But you know, like how you've got a relationship with Horning Redlick, and actually it's also the type of thing, maybe it's better to talk to Paul, or talk to Paul later, than access thing. Because it's actually up there with your risk.
Yeah, because you're already
and
part of
liability.
the scheme.
The public liability.
So, you know,
Maybe we
mean-
need to chat with Paul.
I'm the wrong person to ask about this stuff because I think it's way over the top. All that sort of
I agree.
It's
I just
ridiculous.
need to know that I've checked what I have to check to cover our backs.
Yeah.
That's all. If anything more than that, I'm quite happy. Let's throw out the window.
Survey Plus, anything on your end in this space?
Yeah, we have a manual. We don't have a manual, it's just but Miles is written.
And to be honest,
we keep it up to date manually.
from memory, I think on the insurance renewal, there's a ticker box about when
have
was the
a
last
policy.
time we've updated it and
Yeah.
stuff.
And a lot of the companies we work for, the large companies that we work for, you have to upload copies, you have to say when you've last updated, you have to, and it's becoming that they're asking for more and more. So at the moment, we're scratching through with our updated 3-page policy and the fact that we have a management system. The minute they ask for a copy of that management system, right at this minute, we've got a problem.
So we have specific workflows for each type of survey that we do, and that is our management system. But our directors don't want to give that out because that's our intellectual property.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's a different thing.
It's different, but that is replacing because that is a whole part of every workflow. Is OHS and things happening on site, content training. But
What does transport want when you tick that box to say you're doing a job for transport? They want you to tick that box. They just want you to tick the box, don't they?
Well, yeah, we'll
No, you think they'll actually look into it?
require a copy of swims,
Yeah, swim.
And you're requiring a rail card.
rail cards, all that sort of stuff, CVs for the guys doing the work. We don't yet request when we need to do those annual inductions for all the staff. We don't request dates or proof of that yet. I have heard it may be coming, but it's probably not this year. Because everyone needs to be inducted every year. It needs to be written down. Everyone needs to sign on. So we'll need all that eventually, I would suspect.
for each job, you mean?
For each engagement,
We're just getting more and more compliance is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And so we're going to have to either come up with a system or engage somebody to do it. So, I mean, it's one of those things. We've just joined COSBOA, which is the Council of Small Business Organisations. And one of the things that they talk to us about is red tape and some of the challenges that we face as small business. So I think that's one of those issues that I raise and say, well, the more and more compliance. But then they argue back and say, well, so you're saying we work unsafely, which it's just about how much of it is Big Brother and how much of it is actual need.
I think even if we knew that there was someone that people were using that knew the survey industry and we forked out that money and we would have our problem solved, it probably wouldn't be such an issue. At this point, it's sort of
This is totally an accessible way the department.
I've got a board meeting this week. I'll ask at the board meeting.
Thank you. Because I don't do the swims. Our accounts manager does that side of things, and he does all the swims and that. But I do know that the bigger companies that we work for, they have these third-party firms that all this portal stuff, and it's just getting more and more specific of what we have to upload to check that box.
I wish as an industry we could just have one procurement information for WHS that you could give to every company, because every job you go for,
they have a different
hours and hours of filling in the same information but in a different software.
There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work happening in the procurement space. There's some work. So we sit on the Australian Construction Industry Forum board. I sit on the board, but we're members of it. And there's a national procurement team that's working with government agency procurement people that is trying to standardise the approach to procurement. It's still years away. But at least they are working on it, and there's some work happening at state levels as well. So this sort of flows through. But it's still years away. But everybody acknowledges.
And I also feel like that's like a ticker box thing too, because I've actually said, sorry, we'd love to work for you, we don't have time to do this work this week for just a tender, like hours and hours.
That's right.
And you're asking 5 companies and they go, oh, look, we need it. Oh, sorry, we'd really like to. Can't help you. Bring me back the next day and go, oh, well, just send me this, your hourly rate's that. It's like, so you're still going to
Because it's just a ticker box. It's not a real
so
need.
we sort of push back a bit on that
Yes,
because I've noticed that quite often.
Find that works for your middle
Yeah.
tier, but your bigger companies
Won't take the pushback.
They won't.
They'll just hire a Sydney firm to come and do it who's got the blue.
Yeah, and yet if we do take that job, that's good payroll for us. We know they're going to pay. It's a certain amount of work. Like,
Sally, have you got an online system? I mean, I know you've got your ISO whatever, and there's a big audit. And I know all that sort of stuff about you guys, but
Yeah.
is there a system that you use?
Yeah, we've used EmploySure as a reference point as well, and we have a similar thing where we've updated and brought out the new WHS handbook and manual. And as you said, with it being so many pages and you can't expect everybody to know, the way that I'm trying to roll that out a little bit is with like a WHS newsletter that I'm circulating or talking about at staff meetings, and then everybody's signing off on that so that if we know that there's a change, then it's getting signed off on at that point, just to keep that little bit of training. And they know they've signed off, they know where to find that manual. No, they're not going to know it back to front, but they know where to find the policies should they need to. So that's just sort of the way that I've been handling it so far.
We do something similar, Sally, except we have an online questionnaire. It's an active form on SharePoint. So if there's an update, that questionnaire gets changed and then everyone has to redo that questionnaire. But it also keeps record of staff completing that OH&S questionnaire. So it's, it ticks off boxes when clients are needing, record of have they completed this. It's really good. We found that and it's really easy to make.
I really think we should talk to Paul Mather.
Okay, I've added to the list. You can talk to your husband as well. Board meeting this week. Okay. All right. Anything else? Well, thank you all. There will be drinks now if you would like them, but of course they probably won't have very much alcohol because it's Health Day. But if you really, really need a beer or something, we do have plenty of wine and beer in this place.